Hey all, welcome back to Gadfly, the podcast about third parties, French candidates, and just generally weird American electoral history. I'm Dusty Wilson.
I'm Una O'Leary.
Ah, man, and dude, we're gonna be so up to date today. This is exciting. I'm so excited. So at the end of the last episode, I promised that we are going to be talking about the most topical third party that we possibly could, and that is because a third party that I have brought up multiple times in the past had their convention. The Constitution Party now has a presidential nominee that I'm really wanting to do for the Libertarians are having their convention actually right now. They had their their last presidential debate tonight, and they are going to be voting on their nominee for president tomorrow. So eventually we're going to be talking about the Libertarians. We're going to be talking about the Greens in July after they have their convention as well. But yeah, so this is kind of a new thing I'm testing out, see what works, see what doesn't.
There are no rules anymore. Let's do this.
No, that's an excellent way to put it.
You can drink on the street in any state in America right now.
Dude, all right, so I was taking my dog out for a walk, and this dude just walks by just drinking what I can only assume to be a giant natty ice. No thanks, no anything, and he just turns to me and he says, "Beautiful dog. By the way, I have weed."
Yeah,
this is everything the Libertarians wanted.
Yes, all of Illinois is your college campus.
Yes,
that's our new reality.
Oh, that is painfully true. So today we're going to be talking about the Constitution Party, and the way I'm kind of setting this up a little bit, we're going to do a little bit of history on the Constitution Party, because if I were to do a full episode just on them, I think it would take us about 2 months, and I don't want to do that.
I don't have that attention span. I just don't. You need to break it up for me.
And that's the same for the Libertarians. That's the same for the Greens. So whenever we talk about them, it's going to be specific people or specific moments. So today it's going to be a Cliff Notes history. We're going to go over their platform to discuss what they believe. And then we're going to go on a list of worst to first of everyone who ran for president this year for them. And I was going to say at the end of this, I would force you to say who you would vote for. But after researching these people, I don't think that's fair.
We should absolutely do a Marry, Fuck, Kill.
Oh my God. Okay. All right.
Great.
Okay.
Yes.
Earlier this month, the Constitution Party had their convention for president and held it on May 1st to May 2nd. Now, initially, they were going to be holding it in St. Louis, Missouri. But due to the COVID being everywhere, they held their convention over Zoom.
Oh, bless!
Yeah.
Bless!
Honest to God, I'm actually a little impressed by that. I had been reading there were some rumblings within the party. The Constitution Party, which is about as far right as politics get in America. I was thoroughly expecting them to just absolutely refuse to do anything but an in-person convention. Now, the downside of that is I don't think they released the footage of their convention out into the world, so I didn't get the joy of watching 2 straight days of Constitution Party discussions. So I think all they probably did was just they voted, they talked about the platform, there's probably some minor arguments, but nothing huge. Unlike the Libertarian Convention, which is going on right now, which already has 2 hour-and-a-half-long debates, they're going to be focusing all of their speakers. It's going to be a time.
Oh, what a shit show.
Oh, man.
It's amazing.
Say what you will, but the Libertarian Presidential Convention seemed like the gathering of the juggalos for politics.
I was thinking it's like every person in there is the embodiment of internet commenting.
Oh, my God. Well, and it's the whole range, too, from just complete fucking trolls all the way to people who are like, I'm trying to have an honest intellectual discussion about why we shouldn't have a government.
Will no one debate me?
Someone tell me who John Galt is.
Jesus. It's not even a good book.
Yeah, it's more fun to talk about libertarians, but no, we're getting in the fucking weeds today with the Constitution Party. We've brought up our old pals, the Constitution Party, off and on. During the Alan Keyes episode, we brought them up because he tried and failed to run for president for their nomination. We brought them up during the Alaskan Independence Party episode. The Alaskan Independence Party had been an affiliate of the Constitution Party for a number of years until the party just kind of poofed away. The Constitution Party was founded in 1991, but originally they were known as the U.S. Taxpayers Party. They were founded by a man by the name of Howard Phillips, whose life is honestly pretty interesting, and we're probably going to do a whole series on him at some point. But for now, just the cliff notes of his life. So Phillips was a lifelong Republican who served in the Nixon administration for about 5 months. He had initially left the Nixon administration because he didn't like the fact that Nixon wasn't repealing enough of Lyndon Johnson's Great Society programs fast enough. But he also probably would have been kicked out anyway because the job that he was given, it was as an acting director. And as the law stated at the time, it was one of those positions that could never have an acting director. So the 5 months that he served in the Nixon administration don't count.
Amazing.
So after serving as a Republican for most of his life, he became a Democrat in 1974. Now, as we all know, Democrats nowadays tend to be on the more liberal side of things. But back in the 70s, you could very much be a conservative Southern Democrat and be just as conservative as anyone else. He stayed a Democrat for a number of years until he created his own party in 1991. So the party itself centers around multiple pillars, principles, and key ideas. 3 pillars of the Constitution Party are integrity, liberty, and prosperity. And the 7 principles are life, liberty, property, family, the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, states' rights, and American sovereignty. So this is kind of a nice... Oh, go on.
Yeah, well, I feel like it's a red flag when there are a set number of principles, to say nothing of like a prime number of set principles. And then it's like, aren't a couple of those redundant?
I mean, probably, yeah. I mean, if one of your pillars is liberty and one of your principles is liberty, yeah, it's kind of covering stuff a little bit.
It's like, we get it. All right, that's all.
But we really like liberty. The party would eventually change its name to the Constitution Party in 1999. And that's predominantly due to the fact that the party itself focuses around a very, very strict interpretation of the Constitution. The general idea is, if it is not mentioned in the Constitution, then the federal government cannot do it. So technically, the federal government should never have been allowed to start an Air Force. But drugs and firearms as an illegal thing or as a crime is not mentioned in the Constitution, so the federal government shouldn't be the one making the laws and prosecuting against that. That should be 100% in the state's purview.
Oh, come on!
Nope, that's
so dumb.
No, it's that sort of strict nonsense that I feel like people really love because it's easy to understand. I mean, it's easy to run a federal government that only has to abide by 20 some odd amendments than it is to run a government as it is right now.
Right, with its mess. Yeah, it's it's like trying to figure out women's protective rights. It's just like, it's just so weird and messy, and like I don't get it. I just don't get it.
I mean,
let's just pretend it doesn't exist.
Ooh, just pretending it doesn't exist would be an improvement on their platform. So fucking gird yourself on this one. It's not grand.
Okay, I mean, I know you're going to get to this, but like amendments. Talk to me about amendments for these Constitution purists. All right.
Okay. I'll go ahead and jump on that, just because for the most part, they like the amendments. We will talk about 2 in particular that they do not like. But for the most part, they're fine with the rest. So nowadays, one of the weird things about the Constitution Party is with most national parties, they have fairly similar sounding state affiliates. As you know, with the Democrats, it's always going to be the Democrats in Nevada or Illinois Democrats or things like that. And it's the same with the Greens for the most part, and the same with the Libertarians. But with the Constitution Party, there are some really weird outliers that remain from their days back when it was just a collection of affiliate parties that they brought in under their banner. The remaining examples of this are the American Constitution Party in Colorado, the Nebraska Party in Nebraska, the Independent American Party in Nevada, and the one remaining branch of the U.S. Taxpayer Party, which is in Michigan. And they maintained that name just so they could keep ballot status and not have to start all over again.
Fair enough.
Weirdly enough, the Michigan Constitution Party had already kind of gone under their own name change once before. They were initially known as the Tisch Concerned Citizens, founded by a guy, I want to say his name was like Bob Tisch, but they eventually fell in under the U.S. Taxpayer Party and just stayed.
What, when NYU's Tisch School for the Arts became too much of a name brand?
Look, it's the new school is killing us with their Green Party ideals. We gotta change this up. So with the 3 big third parties, the Constitution Party has arguably held the least amount of success. Their most successful presidential campaign came prior to their name change in 1999, with Howard Phillips's 1996 run where he got 0.19% of the vote, finishing 6th overall. The party would win its first ever major state race in 2006 when businessman Rick Jor won a seat in the Montana House of Representatives. However, since he had previously served a term in the state house prior to 2006, Montana state law banned him from running again, and the Constitution Party lost the seat in 2008. The party's greatest success would come in 2010, when former congressman and professional asshole Tom Tancredo finished second in the Colorado governor race, where he won 36.4% of the vote, and officially qualified the Constitution Party as a major party in the next state election. As seems to be third-party tradition, the American Constitution Party in Colorado took barely any advantage of this, and the next year they ran 3 candidates for Congress in the state, and that was it.
What?
Yeah,
they were second.
Yeah,
they were on top of the world.
36% of the vote, and the next year they're like, no, we're going to run 3 people in the 7 districts that we could. And they didn't do bad. They got like 4% of the vote, but for a third party, that's pretty solid. But they just gave the fuck up.
I don't understand.
So that being said, the Constitution Party is, I mean, if you're looking at a graph super, super close, they're kind of on an uptick. So despite past fractures in the party between the Idaho affiliates and other disgruntled members, 2016 saw the party get its most votes for president ever, when lawyer Darrell Castle scored 203,000 votes, which is about 0.15% of the national vote.
Oh.
But that's going to be a tiny bit harder because in 2019, a sect of the party broke away and formed the Life and Liberty Party, who view themselves as kind of a middle ground between the Constitution Party and the Libertarians.
Oh, so they're like Constitution light?
Essentially, yeah. That's currently their presidential nominee is a remnant from the Alaskan Independence Party.
Oh.
And so they're just, they have a bit more of a focus on God, but a bit more of somehow less government interference than even the Constitution allows.
All right,
so this is about to get tough. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Because we're about to talk about their platform. So the problem is I couldn't find their current 2020 platform, but the 2016 platform I don't think is going to change that much, except for one line where they praise Judge Roy Moore. Probably not keeping that one, if I had to. Yeah, it's one of the things where it's like, I get why you said it then. You should probably delete this from the internet.
But who knows? Maybe they won't. We definitely need an update once their platform comes out to see if, like, honestly, like, would I really be that surprised if they didn't? If they were just like,
I mean,
he loves God.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I'm kind of expecting him to maybe be their nominee in Alabama for the Senate race, but I don't know if they have the time or the money or the patience.
Oh, jeez. All right.
So I'm going to begin with a paraphrased version of their preamble in their 2016 platform, which essentially says that the United States is a Christian nation, which means people get the right to practice whatever religion they want, under a government that should be dictated entirely by Christian ideals. This is a sentence that has never led to anything bad ever.
I'm getting flashbacks from our Keys journey.
Oh, 100%. I was just about to say, it's pretty much Dominion principles all over again.
Not Dominion principles. Also, how do you have a Christian nation where you're like, it's okay to fuck that? I'm not.
People to convert. You can't just, because otherwise you get bored. You got to start going to other countries. And the Constitution Party is not about going to other countries.
The best part too is I just know that the Christian principle is like they're never allowing Catholics into this fun group.
Oh no, they're not Christians. What are you talking about?
WASP all the way.
Anything that requires you to be in church for more than an hour on a Sunday is not Christian to them. So the platform of the party has 38 planks, and going deep into all of them would just be a genuine waste of time. So for all but about 5, I'm just going to be giving one-sentence summaries, essentially saying what they're for, what things they're against, and the things that they would prefer to abolish. Now, the thing is, since this is the platform of the party, not every person running for their nomination is going to support these things 100%, but it's generally accepted that if you're running for the presidential nomination, you agree with these things for the party as a whole.
Yeah, it's like hitting the I accept button on Apple iTunes.
100%, yes. So the things that they're for states' rights, impeccable moral character in all of their leaders.
Good luck.
Yeah, I was going to say, too, feel free to stop me on any of these if you want to talk to them. They are therefore, the Electoral College, calling the popular vote a dangerous threat to our constitutional republic. They love tariffs. They are in favor of all federal veterans benefits programs. And they want to allow Congress the right to remove Supreme Court and federal judges for, quote, bad behavior.
Oh, nope. Dope.
They state that the Constitution does not give Supreme Court judges a lifetime seat. That's just, in their minds, an interpretation, and that you can remove Supreme Court justices whenever you want.
I'm not a fan of a number of Supreme Court judges who are on the bench right now, but that I'm not advocating for anarchy.
Well, and it blows my mind, too, that they're one of the few political parties, I think, right now who are fond of the Electoral College, especially because they have the least to gain from the Electoral College. But, I mean, it's in the Constitution, so it's not like they can say, fuck this.
Oh, boy.
So the things that they're against, this is a much longer list, because if it's not the Constitution, it's gotta fucking go.
Oh, no.
So things that they're against in no particular order. The draft, the calling of any constitutional convention, the Copyright and Patent Office, all hate crime legislation.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I mean, that's not going to go wrong, right?
What?
Yeah, the government can't decide that.
I'm so sorry. Revenge porn didn't exist in 1789.
Look,
but you know what? It probably did.
They're against domestic federal aid not outlined by the Constitution. So this includes SNAP, WIC, TANF, any sort of federal program that helps people out.
God, Jesus.
They're against executive orders, lotteries, and casinos. But they will leave it up to the states to reinstate rights of reservations to run their own casinos, but that's up to the states to decide. Government regulations of business, which they call the current system fascism.
Nope.
They're against all federal firearms legislations and gun-free zones. Any government health insurance program. They are massively against the Federal Reserve and the IRS. They're against asset forfeiture laws, over-aggressive search and seizure, any form of pornography, obscenity, and sexually oriented business, the idea of churches being taxed, Social Security. DC wants to be a state? Fuck them. Also, we should get out of NAFTA, the WTO. Fuck the Patriot Act and every law that it's started after 9/11. It just drives me nuts because you hit 5 things that suck, and then you hit one thing, and you're just like, God damn it.
I'm not saying throw the baby out with the bathwater.
I know, save a couple bits of the baby. Oh man,
Jesus Christ! Here's my thing with this group is just can we just reinstate more Williamsburg's colonies? Can we just send them to that? Because it really is you don't realize how much improvement all of these things that weren't in the actual Constitution, weren't written down by the founding fathers.
Yeah,
and it's because you live in this insano fantasy world, and it's just start wearing a wig and a cap and doing away with pens and getting a quill and go the full 9 yards and just try that. Try really being an anti-vaxxer.
Oh man, it's funny you bring that up.
Oh no.
So just to run through the rest of the things they want to get rid of.
Oh God, we're not done.
Oh, we hit halfway of the stuff that's gonna go. This is all day one easy shit. They're against the idea of a federally mandated minimum wage. They're against all aid programs for citizens, aside for the ones for veterans, and believe that such programs should be handled by churches, civic groups, and private organizations. So I'm going to stop on this one because a lot of my job in the world outside of this is finding organizations that offer social services. And the sheer number of times I see churches that are asking for donations but don't do dick all for the community, don't even have a clothing closet or a food pantry. Churches, for the most part, will not do shit. They will not pick up the fucking slack on this.
Preach.
And rant. They also want to get rid of the Voting Rights Act. all federal wetlands legislation and the Federal Endangered Species Act, all federal campaign finance laws. They want to end vote by mail, absentee voting, and they're against eminent domain.
Are they even for voting at this point?
I mean, it's in the Constitution, so they have to be.
Wow. Well, I feel like if these are the people where, if any of the founding fathers, like in particular, Alexander Hamilton, maybe because I know him the most through the musical, like came back to present day and saw all that was done and all that was created and then heard about these guys, he would just backhand them.
I'm not entirely sure what the crux of so much of this is, other than the fact that I think they made a point that the Federal Reserve and income taxes fucking suck, and their basis of it was the Constitution. But if you're going to do that, then you have to follow it to a T. You have to follow literally every strict interpretation, and that means cutting out so much stuff.
Yeah. I also haven't heard, okay, they're getting rid of all of the federal assisted things, which has been Republican wet dream since as long as I've been alive.
Oh, yeah.
We may not be done with the list, but where's the cutting of the military spending? Is that in the Constitution?
I mean, weirdly enough, we're actually going to get to there.
Hey, all right.
Yeah, this is the fucking frustrating thing. 5% of these fuckers. It's like, yeah, eminent domain sucks. Yeah, I would love to get rid of the Patriot Act and all of the draconian laws that came after that because we were all scared shitless. That would be amazing. But, I mean, they also don't believe that climate change is a thing.
Because it's not in the Constitution?
I mean, that's mostly because God.
I feel like God is definitely telling us that climate change is real. I feel like that evidence has been everywhere.
How many cities do I have to set on fire, you fuckers? Let's get in depth on a few of these topics here. And we're going to start off nice and easy with abortion.
Fuck you.
So you know that Republican mantra of, I'm against abortion with the exception of rape, incest, and health of the mother?
Mm-hmm.
Constitution Party says, fuck you. No abortion. Never. Any reason. Fuck you. Banned forever. Also, Plan B medication is banned. Fuck that shit.
What?
Yeah.
I don't remember the rhythm method being written in the Constitution. These people need to calm down.
Oh no, they have a very strict interpretation that human life starts at conception. But you might be asking yourself, well, what about Roe v. Wade? I mean, it's decided law. Well, the Constitution Party would just encourage states to completely ignore it and go about life as if the decision never existed, at least until they could get the law overturned.
I think they have, Constitution Party. I think for the most part, many have.
Some are trying. They're doing their bestest. And probably one of the weirdest things, say you are having trouble conceiving. And you go out and you find an egg donor or a sperm donor. If that donor is not your husband or your wife, you have now committed a crime.
What?
Yep, that is a strict interpretation right there of what I assume to be cheating.
But this is so far outside the Constitution. I
don't know what to tell you. Fucking James Monroe hopped in there with some invisible ink and wrote some weird shit. Actually, I don't know why I picked James Monroe. He wouldn't do that. John Adams would. That guy was a fucking asshole.
But he loved his wife.
Yeah. Why is that always the one nice thing I can say about these people? Well, now that simple topic is done, let's move on to congressional reform. So as we all know, the Constitution Party loves the Constitution. But there's a couple of amendments they're not the biggest fan of. And the first one would be the 17th Amendment, which we had brought up during the Alan Keyes episode, in that the 17th Amendment is the amendment that allows us to vote for our senators. Prior to then, state representatives would vote on who the senator would be for the state. And for some reason, the Constitution Party does not like the fact that we can vote for senators now.
It's always fascinating to find a political party in this regard that's actively against more pure democracy.
So the remaining stances on congressional reform are directed right at members of Congress themselves, stating that members would no longer be allowed to add riders to bills that have nothing to do with the main intent of the bill. So say you're passing a bill on Head Start centers and improving funding for that, you can't suddenly put on a rider that says, I need $80 million for a library.
Oh, but that's a good one.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
Why?
Also, they are totally for abolishing congressional pensions. And former members of Congress would not be allowed to work as a lobbyist until 2 years after the end of their last term. Yeah, this is all good. I have no complaints.
I'm imagining somewhere in parallel universe we have this podcast, but from a conservative viewpoint, and it's just like we're going through the abortions. Like, God, that's really good. Oh, but the pensions and the lobbying. God, what
Look, you
were
gotta
they
let people make
thinking?
a living, man. Come on.
They earned it, unlike any other federal and state employee.
I would love to be able to sneak into one of these conventions, and when they bring up congressional pensions, I would just be like, I have one question. What's a pension?
Agreed.
All right, so let's move on to defense. The thing that I think really defines the Constitution Party it's a difficult stance for them to make, especially as a right-wing party, and it's one that I think is probably their most honorable. The Constitution Party is anti-war and pro-defense.
Okay.
So the biggest complaint that they have had, especially since 9/11, is that presidents have kind of had a habit of not so much declaring war, but bombing people casually without consulting Congress about it.
Yeah, where's the lie?
And they're like, no, the Constitution says you have to get approval from Congress before you do any of this shit. And it has led to us getting into a multitude of wars where we have sent people to die for really no good reason.
None whatsoever.
And so they're like, that's done. We need to pull everyone back from every foreign occupation that we are in right now and focus entirely on defense of our country alone. So they do get a bit isolationist, but they leave in the ability for Congress to say, no, we need to go to war. We need to for a specific votable reason. One of their planks, because around the time they were bringing up well, what if there's a terrorist bombing in America? What is your stance on that? And their stance is, well, we punish the terrorists. We're never going to attack the country they come from.
Oh,
yeah.
That's kind of beautiful.
And that's why Alan Keyes didn't win the nomination.
Wow.
But hey, I gave you this really nice pillow to lay on. How about I give you this mattress made out of nails?
Oh, no.
Because
put on the hair suit.
Oh yeah, because you know what's mentioned in the Constitution? A well-maintained militia.
No!
They even go a little further, stating in their own words they are for a state and unorganized county/community militias. And look, Una, I know there is nothing you love more than being in a disorganized community militia. But I hate to break it to you, but the Constitution Party has some bad news for you. Because you see, radical feminism allowed women into the military, and that never should have happened to begin with.
I'm freaking out!
So I'm sorry, you can't be in this chaos militia.
Oh my God.
This is probably one of the most frustrating political parties. I know we joke about libertarians, but at least libertarians have a better batting average than this.
It's like every other plank, which, first of all, it's like, why do you have to call them planks? But
platform's made out of wood, and wood is plank. Yeah, I wish it was a better explanation.
Barf. Okay. It sounds like shit that's written on the walls of a CrossFit gym. Like 13 virtues, 28 planks.
Oh my
God. Some burpees.
Unless you're a woman. Women don't do burpees.
Yeah.
So let's move on to foreign policy.
Wow. Okay.
Being an isolationist party, the Constitution Party has a lot of things they would stop doing. Firstly, they would pull the U.S. out of the UN. Then they'd kick the UN the fuck out of New York City. And after this, they'd leave NATO, pull out of all the treaties that they feel don't fit within the constitutional rights of the federal government, end all foreign aid, and immediately collect any debt owed to America by other countries.
Oh my God. Of course they love pulling out. These people have crazy feelings about abortion.
Rhythm method works very good for foreign policy, so I've heard.
Ew.
It has a 10% success rate.
Yeah.
I wish I could remember the percentage that we were told in high school on that. I know it was something. It was some weirdly specific number. Well, I mean, let's make things worse. Let's move on to immigration.
Oh boy.
Okay. So the Constitution Party demands that the federal government restore immigration policies based on the practice that potential immigrants will be disqualified from admission to the United States if, on grounds of health, criminality, morals, or financial dependence, they would impose an improper burden on the United States, any state, or any citizen of the United States. So if your morals would pose a burden on even one person in this country, you are not allowed in.
I mean, how do you...
Based on the things I've read here, if you have a history of sex work, you are not allowed in the country. If you are not 100% straight, you are not allowed into the country. If you are not an evangelical Christian, you are not allowed in the country.
This is again where like the crazy Christianity is rubbing up against, I feel like, actual constitutional edicts. Like immigration did it even exist?
Yeah, you just show up on a boat. You're here.
You just arrived and that was it. And I mean, to say nothing of the fact that it's like the insane hypocrisy of counting yourself as a Christian nation and just being like, oh, nope, gates closed. Sorry. Yeah, Jesus was all for that. Jesus was like, get the fuck out of here. We're full.
Don't know what to tell you, fucker. Look, man, I walked on water to get here just like everyone else. I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah. Pick yourself up by your sandals and get the fuck on that lake.
Oh my God. I mean, and that's not even to discuss the religious leanings of the founding fathers who...
Right.
At strictest were Episcopalians, and at lightest probably laughed in the face of God on a regular basis.
Regularly, 100%.
Look, I don't want to shade Ben Franklin, but probably not the most church-going fellow.
Yeah, he found God in other ways.
Yeah. So let's make this a little worse. How about that? All right, so following making this change, the party would also make English the official language of America, demand that all immigrants be able to read and write in what they would call basic English, order all immigrants to have a personal sponsor who would be legally responsible for their housing, food, and any bonds the government would require them to pay to enter the country, and ban the existence of bilingual voting ballots.
I mean, good luck.
Yeah.
I can't understand you if I don't speak English. How about that, motherfucker?
Oh my God, yeah, I mean, and that's pretty much just how you stop immigration entirely.
Which is
impossible for the people who want to immigrate the most and improve their lives the most and tell them to fuck off.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's like the countries that you are so desperate to have their citizens come over here, take a look at us and are like, oh, hard pass.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have maternity leave. You don't have federally sanctioned health care. You have, at best, 2 weeks vacation time.
Yeah.
Why? Like, New Zealand just allowed for 4-day work weeks.
Oh my God, New Zealand is fucking destroying it now. They're doing so goddamn good.
Yeah.
Yeah, if there's anything that I think most of us have learned during this quarantine is that the 4-day work week and working from home is pretty great.
Mm-hmm.
And weirdly, all right, so this is going to be a weird side tangent. I think working from home is the thing that would save small town America and rural America.
Ooh.
Because if you are not required to live in a major city to get a job and you can work from home and live literally wherever your heart wants, you can go back to whatever small town you want to live in and be able to afford a better life than you could, say, in Chicago or Miami or Los Angeles.
So yeah, and it's so true that a lot of people miss the community that comes with a small town, and of course, I mean, like the housing stock alone, Jesus.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. But you know, you can't even get a part-time job downtown because the Walmart has decimated Main Street. Like, what the fuck are you gonna do?
Yeah. But yeah, you do that, you give the chance for small towns to finally make their first rebound since the trains went away.
Since the mill closed down.
God, that fucking mill. Ah, man. Well, let's hit that last really hardcore plank of the Constitution Party.
Oh my God. Yep.
And, I mean, it's going to be an easy one comparatively. Taxes. The whole reason the party was founded to begin with. So the other amendment that the Constitution Party does not like is the 16th Amendment. And this is the one that states that income tax is now legal. However, the party has a bit of a belief that the 16th Amendment wasn't actually legally ratified. So this current belief comes from a book published in 1985 called The Law That Never Was, and claimed that not enough states actually ratified the amendment. This has been repeatedly proved to be historically inaccurate, and multiple Supreme Court cases have been decided to say that, yeah, income tax is real, it is legal, and it was approved. And the book itself seems to have been written as an excuse for the author just to not pay his taxes, and he's turned it into a bit of a grift where he'll sell people kits for $3,500 to teach them how to not pay their income taxes.
Oh my God, I think I've heard of this.
And it's never worked. Literally a year after he created it, a dude went to jail for trying it.
Yeah, and it's all, I mean, it's just the like insane theories that come, like, if you don't write your name in cursive, ergo, the statement isn't bound and you don't have to pay tax. It's like all of it kind of comes to ideas that even Dan Brown threw away.
Yeah.
It's like that kind of dumbassery.
Look, Una, I would sue you for these insulting things that you have just said, but this is clearly an admiralty court, and so clearly we're both right. Yeah, it's some real weird sovereign citizen bullshit, but they would be using this belief as a reason to immediately get rid of the 16th Amendment. And so we're going to finish on something that I think we'll agree on, and that's the idea that the tax burden should fall entirely on companies and not on people. So the general idea is that if we get rid of income tax, it's going to be up to companies to pay that tax instead.
My issue with that is like, companies have to pay taxes already, and like the big name ones have offshore headquarters. Like so many companies are technically located in Ireland because then they don't have to pay taxes. Like there's an incredible loophole. Yeah. So again, it's like, I mean, yeah, but they're already supposed to be paying taxes. Like that's part of the problem is that they're not.
From what I've read, it seems like they would try to get rid of those loopholes that allow companies to do that, but you're not wrong. Companies they hire very, very smart people to figure out how they don't have to pay taxes. So it would be a really decidedly hard thing for them to be able to figure out and succeed at doing. But
especially with this group of Mensa affiliates, let me just say.
Yeah, a business would just have to be like, where in the Constitution does it say you can do this? They'd be sad. I mean, it's an idea where it's like, I like the heart of this. I like what you're saying.
Yeah.
Don't think you've thought this through.
Yeah.
I think everything's a little too broken for this to work. But they also had a pitched idea of how they would be able to pay off the rest of the deficit that they couldn't fulfill from taxing companies. And the idea was you'd make states pay for it. So let's say you have $10 million of deficit still remaining. If your state has 10% of the national population, then your state needs to pay in $1 million to that national deficit.
They're all broke.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's look at Illinois, a state that that could not pay lottery payouts for a number of goddamn years.
Oh my God.
Like our trains, God bless the CTA, they're doing their fucking best.
They're doing their best. They really are.
But those things are running on hopes and dreams and very angry conductors who I love until the end of time.
Well, I mean, except for that one who tells you to have a really great day on the CTA. I miss him.
I hope life never breaks that man. For those of you who don't live in Chicago, there is a train conductor. He's typically on the Red Line, which goes from the beginning of the North Burbs all the way down to 95th Street on the South Side. And he's always just like, "Thank you for riding the Red Line today," and is like encourages everyone to stay in school and tells everyone, "I hope you're having a great day." And he's just full of so much energy.
Yes.
And life will, I hope, never break him.
Yeah, like at every stop, he's like, "Be kind to one another. You don't know what other people are going through.
Oh, yeah.
Keep a smile on your face." Oh, God, just pure joy.
He's doing okay.
I know.
That dude is spectacular.
Anyway,
Man.
Needed that after so much Constitution Party.
I know, right? We should just celebrate Chicago heroes, like Red Line train conductor who tells you to have a good day, Claudio the tamale guy. Thankfully, that is the end of their platform. We've gotten out of the woods. And you know what's on the other side, Una?
What?
5 different woods.
I'm laughing and I'm crying.
It's time to talk about the 5 people who decided to take up the mantle and run for the Constitution Party nomination this year.
Okay.
Some of these are going to be pretty quick to go through, thankfully, because their web presence isn't exactly stellar. And some are going to take a little bit of time, but hopefully this is all at least, our definition of fun.
And then there's a fuck, marry, kill at the end.
Exactly. Yes. Thank you for reminding me.
No, I have not forgotten.
Oh, my goodness, yes. All right, so we're going to start with a fellow by the name of Daniel Clyde Cummings. The most unique aspect of Cummings is that out of the 5 candidates, he's the only one to have run as a Constitution Party candidate during his entire political career.
Oh, wow. Gold star.
He began running for office back in 2012 for the at-large congressional seat in Wyoming, which he would end up running for again in 2014, 2016, and 2018. During that time, he actually performed fairly well, never getting lower than 2% of the vote and hitting his all-time best in 2016 with a 3rd place finish and a 4.12% of the vote. Dan also attempted to gain the Constitution Party presidential nomination in 2016, but was only able to get about 2.65% of the support and finished in 4th. So there isn't a whole lot out there about Dan. Currently, he is 73 years old, he lives in Utah, and he works as a physician in his own family and addiction medicine practice. Aside from that, things are a bit harder to find, primarily because both his campaign website and his business page are both WordPress templates that appear to have never been touched.
Amazing.
But from the bits of interviews I've been able to find, he seems to be just the prototypical constitutionalist. He wants to, quote, decrease the size of U.S. government, abolish the welfare state, and increase individual liberty. He, like the rest of the party, wants to leave marriage and abortion laws up to the states. And when asked if he felt states would be capable of making proper laws on these subjects, he said, some states would make very bad laws, but that's not up to Congress or the federal judiciary to fix.
Fuck those Americans for living in that dumb state.
I feel like if this was something that I said in high school, where it's like, yeah, that happened, and yeah, I'm technically in charge of it, but I'm not going to do anything about it. I don't think I could have gotten away with that.
This is what I mean. This is exactly it. It's like it's the arrested development that is necessary to be fully a part of this.
Written all across it. It's just like, how can I get this amazing job and do as little as possible? And feel morally justified in doing that. Dan Cummings would end up making history for the party at the convention by being the first ever presidential nominee for them to be kicked off the ballot for a second round of voting. Before this year, the party had been able to choose their nominee on the first ballot, at times with very little contention. But sadly, we have to say goodbye to Daniel Clyde Cummings, who finished already with 4.24% of the vote. And he's going to have to settle for running for Congress this year in Utah's 3rd district. But hey, it's cool. It's no time to be sad. It's time for us to talk about the only woman and the only person of color running for the nomination this year. Up next is Sheila Sam Tittle of Virginia, who works as a small business owner. I cannot find the names of any of her businesses, but she lists them vaguely as an employment agency, a cleaning service, a product distribution and services business, and a lending institution, which, if she's not going to say bank, that leads me to believe it is a loan shark.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, probably a check cashing place, also known as a loan shark.
Yeah, it's a cash R us up on Route 30.
Oh my god. So I did end up checking out her LinkedIn page just to try to get some more clarity, but the only things listed there was her work experience being president of Sam Tittle for President since 2011, and her education as various. Why even make a LinkedIn profile, Sam? Like, what the fuck are you doing?
I no longer believe she really exists.
No, I've seen pictures. She is real.
Listen, pictures can be doctored. The LinkedIn was written by aliens. Yes, I have been watching a lot of X-Files.
No one would want to doctor, and that's not in like a weird, about JFK or John F. K. version. So one bit of a note for those of you listening, because you can't exactly see what I've written down, and so you're not really getting the full impact of Sam's name. Because you see, Sam isn't just a nickname. It's also fully capitalized, as well as being an acronym for Saving America's Majesty for Millions. There is no further explanation.
Okay, I take it back. She is real, but she is not human. She is an alien life force that is on here as part of an anthropology study.
I can't go back to my home world until I become president.
Exactly.
So Sam states that she grew up as a second-generation American in a lower-income household in El Paso, Texas, and was, on her mother's side, the descendant of Spanish blue bloods. She appears to state that her family on her mother's side were members of Spanish nobility who had immigrated to Albuquerque sometime around the 17th or 18th century.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's
weird flex, but fine.
I mean, look, you gotta flex how you can. Well, and the fun thing is she describes her family background as the legal immigrant family. Yeah. Her father had immigrated from Mexico previously, and on her mother's side, her family were just here when America took New Mexico. So Sam would go on to work many jobs throughout her life and makes a point to list literally every single one of them on her bio, ranging from janitor to diplomatic ambassador to paralegal to waitress to salesman. Now, some of these jobs came from her being the owner-operator of her own companies. Sam notes on her website that whenever there came a time when Sam was unemployed, solving the problem became effectively starting and advancing successful businesses.
Like a payday lender.
Look, I mean, we've both been laid off, I think. And
100%.
And we just started a business when that happened. We're not just going to sit around.
Took our welfare money.
Uncharted 4.
Paid some rent.
Yeah.
Used it. Yeah.
So this year is Sam's third attempt at running for president. Having run as the We the People Party candidate in 2012, when she finished 21st overall, and as an independent in 2016, however, it doesn't seem like she actually got on the ballot anywhere. Just like Dan, we do run into a bit of an ideas problem. You see, her website is very detailed about her biography, but her issues page only contains a header saying that here's where you're going to find her issues, and then there's just a big old blank space underneath.
That's amazing.
That
sums it up.
But just from viewing her website, it is very clear that there is one thing Sam doesn't believe in, and that is the rules of how capitalization works. So many random words in the middle of sentences have been given the uppercase treatment that it makes me worry for her shift key. Each new paragraph gives my pinky finger sympathy pains. It seems like her rules, as best I could decipher, is whenever she wants to italicize a word, it gets capitalized. And whenever she wants to bold something, caps lock. And someone just needs to tell her, it is /I /sentence.
Listen, there was no Microsoft Word during the founding fathers. Ergo.
The whole Constitution was italics. What am I going to do?
Yeah.
But lucky for us, we do have one source of truth for Sam's beliefs, and that's the goddamn Sam train. That's right, toot toot, motherfuckers. Here comes the Sam train, all capitals. Which is an oversized Ford truck with a Winnebago trailer all decked out with Sam's face and platform.
No.
It's at least been around since 2012.
Oh my God.
And based on that trailer, sorry, go on.
No, I just like the Sam train. I was just like, yeah, come aboard. Maybe there's a video. No, it's a caravan and a Winnebago. No.
It's a Ford F-150 and a caravan that's doing its best. So based on the side of her camper van, Sam believes in two things: states' rights and a motherfucking flat tax. 10% bitches all around. And as Sam says, if it's good enough for God, it's good enough for the fat pig called government.
Jesus Christ. First of all, calm down with the tithing.
I mean, at least it's a basis for why she's doing it.
I guess.
So another fun little detail about Sam is that she fucking hates Donald Trump. Her Twitter seems to be solely dedicated to tweet at, as she calls him, bankrupt Donnie, and then fill the remaining character limit with as many ats towards celebrities and news anchors as she can.
Homegirl knows her social needs.
Look, you gotta try.
Yeah.
And I'll give her that. She is trying. I mean, she is going across the country talking to folks. And she does have an active Twitter, and it seems to be more than Dan was able to accomplish, so good on her.
Dan's 73. Well, then again, so is Donald Trump. Never mind. I take it back.
He's busy helping people kick drugs, apparently. So do what you gotta do.
And then making sure they're denied any welfare service to remain off of drugs.
It's not a perfect system, but... At the convention, Sam was able to finish in third place on the first ballot, netting 15.35% of the vote. But I have no idea what happened on the second ballot because her support plummeted to 6.88%, and she ended up finishing in fourth.
No, Sam!
So the thing is, we've spent a little too long amount of time not talking about someone genuinely loathsome, and we really kind of need an antagonist in this story right now.
Yes.
And lucky for us, it's early on enough that we can grab an antagonist and know he's not going to win.
Beautiful. Lay it on me.
We're going to talk about a guy by the name of Don Grundman, who is a chiropractor from San Leandro, California.
Grundman the chiropractor.
Now look, I'm not going to say he isn't really a chiropractor, because that would be a huge leap to make. But I do feel safe in saying, thanks to Google Maps, he probably isn't a practicing chiropractor, because his listed location of business appears to be both a strip mall and now either a Subway sandwich shop or a nail salon.
I don't know. Strip malls are very much favored by chiropractors. I
mean, you're not wrong, but I searched around that whole thing on the Google Maps and I did not see a chiropractor anywhere.
Fair enough. It could be in the back of the Subway.
You got to get one of those meat massages, man. Have I been going to the wrong chiropractor? So Don easily has the most campaign and political experience out of everyone running. In the early 90s, he began as a fairly serious Republican candidate in a deeply blue district. From 1990 to 1994, he was the official GOP nominee for the California State House in the Modesto area, even netting 30% of the vote in his last run in 1994. However, after that loss, he took a 6-year break before re-emerging as the American Independent Party's congressional nominee for California's 13th district. After losing both of those races, he was promoted to the AIP's Senate candidate in 2004 and 2006, where he would fail to even get 1% of the vote statewide. In 2008, Don would make his first run for the Constitution Party's presidential nomination and finish third out of fifth. After this, his standing in the AIP seems to waver a bit, because in 2010, during his third attempt to run for Senate, he lost the party's primary. He would end up running again as the AIP Senate candidate in 2012 during an open primary where he would finish 18th, and then just ran as an independent for Senate in 2016 where he finished 31st.
Oh, jeez.
Despite not finishing with more than 1% of the vote since 2002, Don ran again for the Constitution Party presidential nomination in 2016, this time finishing 6th with far less support than his last run. He ran for Senate again in 2018 as an independent, where he finished 28th, and even took a swing this year at the congressional race for California's 15th district, where he finished last, but was able to get 1.25%, his best performance in nearly 2 decades. The helpful bit about Grundman compared to our previous candidates is that he has run for office so many times that he now just has a webpage dedicated to his own beliefs that he uses as his campaign page for whatever race he's running for.
Yes, no matter the party, I'm sure.
So describing his own page, Don says, quote, "This site is not created to show me hugging a baby or with various groups for simple political pictures. It is instead built as a meat and potatoes website. This site is built to aid and assist you in both countering and leaving what I term as the Matrix." He also refers to his essays as, quote, pills.
No!
I would also like to stress, this is an old man.
No! What? How old? How old?
At least in his 70s or 80s. He's an older fellow.
Absolutely not. Matrix bullshit is only for Gen Xers.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
So there doesn't seem to be much that Don actually supports. And based on his own writings, it seems to just be states' rights and increasing the use of nuclear power.
What?
Yeah, I mean, he wants to move away from oil and more towards nuclear power.
There are other options.
I mean, look, it's it's a choice, and it's a unique one, so I'll give him that. As for what he's against, just pull up a chair at Thanksgiving and get ready for your uncle to tell you everything he hates. Don hates the Federal Reserve to the point that he hates the money that we all use and thinks we just need to print a whole new form of currency. As is party tradition, he hates the IRS. He thinks climate change is pure bullshit. Palestine can go fuck itself. Planned Parenthood should lose all of its funding, which weirdly enough is the only thing he mentions under his plank for racism.
Wow.
Also, vaccines are fascist. Abortion is an unholy sin, but the big one, and Don Grudman's reason for life, man hates homosexuality.
Oh my God. Like, I can smell the day-old beer breath.
Oh God, yeah.
In this.
Like, this is the dude who is keeping Seagram 7 in business.
100%.
You see, Don hates the LGBTQ plus folks so much that he founded the National Straight Pride Coalition, an organization that, as he describes, defends heterosexuality, Caucasians, and Western civilization, and promotes nationalism.
Oh boy.
This group reached nationwide notoriety in 2019 when it decided it was going to throw its own straight pride parade in Modesto, California.
Was this before Boston tried to do something?
This was at the exact same, I think it was about the exact same time. Different people.
Okay. All right.
So the topic of whether to allow the parade was brought up to the Modesto City Council. And in a packed room of mostly protesters, Don Grunman looked the council members in the eye and earnestly said of the National Straight Pride Coalition, "We're a totally peaceful, racist group." Clearly it wasn't what Don meant to say. But he said it with such an ease that it seems like it's something he's said more than enough times in private.
Oh my God!
It's on YouTube. It is life-giving. There's a moment where a city councilwoman just starts laughing so hard. And of course, just for the rest of the time, the audience is just cheering and clapping and heckling him until his time is up. It's right up there with cat videos. It's so pretty. Great.
Know what I'm doing this weekend?
Oh my God, yes. It's worth putting on a loop at least for an hour. The parade would end up going on because, we have rights in this country, even for shitty people. But by any measure, it would be considered an unmitigated failure. Grundman had expected several hundred people to arrive, but police estimated they got about 20 people to march.
Oh, beautiful.
It also didn't help that the venue where the parade kicked off from had kicked them out because they lied about why they were there.
Wow.
Apparently they had tried to get 2 other locations and were honest about why they were doing it, and both locations said, "No, man, fuck off." And so they got this venue that's typically used for weddings and for, oh my God, the thing that happens after weddings, receptions, that.
I was like, bar mitzvahs?
Divorces. We handle weddings and divorces. But yeah, as soon as they started talking, the owner of the venue said, "You have to get the fuck out now." And so they began their march, which led them to a Planned Parenthood that was closed for the day.
Oh my God.
And when they got there, they were met by 200 counter-protesters.
Yes.
The whole thing ended very quickly. And so Don, during his 3rd run for the Constitution Party's presidential nomination, didn't do much better than usual. On the first ballot, he finished 4th with 8.36%, but would then inch up to 3rd place, and the second ballot got 7.77%.
Oh, I'm sure he's dropping another unironic Freudian slip.
It's kind of bonkers. One of my favorite details, and this probably isn't going to go into the podcast, is the co-founder of his organization is a woman who had adopted a child who she later disowned because he had come out as gay. And one of the city council members, and I think it's the one who starts laughing when Gruntman says they're a peaceful racist organization, is his birth mother.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah. It's one of those things that if you put it into a script, they'd laugh you out of the room.
Yeah. It's like, this is a little on the nose. Cut it.
Which brings us to our first runner-up. A man with zero political campaign experience whatsoever. Financial advisor from Virginia, Charles Kraut. Now, that's not to say that Charles is a complete political novice. He had initially started out as a Republican, but for some reason, in 2008, he went even further right and joined the Constitution Party. He began to directly work with the Tea Party movement, as well as the Campaign for Liberty, an organization founded by Congressman Ron Paul in the wake of his unsuccessful run for president.
Oh, I remember that.
Of all the candidates we've discussed so far, Charles has easily one of the best put together pages for his platforms and beliefs. Also, and I hope this isn't libelous, but I get the impression from his stances that he is the most liberal of the 5 people running. But that's also not saying much.
No.
Because it really just means that he isn't outright advocating for the end of the Federal Reserve, the IRS, or the Department of Education.
Yeah.
He just seems more amenable to weakening them first, and then if they can get rid of them, so be it.
Yeah, just putting a pillow over it at night and just sort of pressing on it for
Department of Energy, it's okay. I'm sending you to Department Heaven.
Just putting you out of your misery.
So to kick things off, his platform has an introductory paragraph on the war on poverty and how it's the greatest example of government gone wrong. He doesn't supply much in the way of proof, opting more for an if this happened, then this argument. Firstly, as he put it, the program was bad because the Constitution never mentions poverty, so the federal government should never have been allowed to address it to begin with. But since they created a multitude of social programs, this raised national debt. This led to taxes going up. This led to middle-class Americans being able to buy less. This made women feel like they had to go and get a job. Personal debt still rose, so welfare programs became more lenient to qualification. This led to women not needing a husband to qualify, which led women to no longer want to get married or stay married. This caused crime to go up because there are fewer present fathers. And even in 2-person families, both of them needing to work now leads to scheduling conflicts that make families eating together or hanging out less common. End paragraph.
Like, I'm hearing this, and then one of the things that pops into my head is how terrorized I was in high school of writing essays.
Yeah.
It's like, I have to make this argument airtight, and I am so scared of plagiarism and yada yada. And then I hear this. I guess kudos for writing out a slippery slope. Like,
no, yeah. I mean, compared to everyone else so far, it's a jump up.
It's also just so frustrating because it's like, yeah, I mean, a couple of those things, like, you're right, like, people don't have time to spend with their families, but how you got there, it's if you give a mouse a cookie,
yeah,
of political platforms.
Yeah, if you give a mouse a cookie, crime will increase. Probably one of the most basic things I could also point out for this whole preamble is that the war on poverty was a success. And technically it ended in 1981, and the numbers started getting worse after the Reagan administration shut it down. The war on poverty had succeeded in lowering nationwide poverty from 22% in 1960 to 12% in 1980.
Wow.
But for some reason, Charles seems to believe that the war on poverty was just a prequel to the culture war of the 80s. So with his tenuous grasp on the issues, what else is Charles Kraut all about? Well, he hates executive orders, thinks the Constitution is perfect, but, we should probably repeal the 16th and 17th Amendments if we can. He thinks God should be a part of every school curriculum, hates taxes, but doesn't really propose any new plans on how to fix the system, and supports the Second Amendment. But then we kind of take a turn into conspiracy land, because he also seems to think that Bill Gates has some kind of vaccine-based plan to become a world dictator.
Oh, now we're getting somewhere.
Charles's biggest statement seems to be his decision that progressivism is, quote, the great cancer eating away at America, responsible for genocide, racism, prejudice, bigotry, belief in racial superiority, and much more. Citation needed.
Indeed, Kraut.
But maybe no citations, Charles, because when he actually starts to hand out details and sources, that's when his ideas shift from vague to hilariously terrible. For example, Charles believes that all government healthcare programs are unconstitutional. He posits, how will the poor be provided for if they don't receive free medical care? The answer is simple. They will receive it through free hospitals and clinics operated by private charitable organizations. So according to a study done by the National Library of Medicine, as of 2010, there are 1,007 free clinics operating in America. The study conducted did say that out of those clinics, only 188 of them are full-time clinics. The rest operate about 18 hours a week on average. Also, most free clinics only exist within cities or metro areas, leaving rural populations that have been losing hospitals over the past decade completely bereft of care beyond that of a family physician who may or may not have a sliding scale of cost for services, which led the National Library of Medicine to state that, yeah, free clinics are great, but they are not a replacement for what we have.
No, and private organizations, like charitable or not, they still have to put together a profit.
Yeah. And I mean, there are really good charitable organizations that do have free clinics, but they are extraordinarily limited in what they can do. A Catholic Charities clinic will be able to do a health screening. They'll be able to check your blood pressure. They'll be able to give you nutrition counseling. But they're not going to be able to, do surgery. They're not going to be able to give you long-term cancer treatment. So things get even worse when he brings up climate change.
Oh, no.
Most of the previous candidates are just fine saying it's completely bullshit and not real and move along. But Charles needs to cite his work. He takes a more liberal route, saying that the science is just not settled yet. Could exist, but we haven't really settled on anything. He recommends that everyone read a book called The Neglected Sun by Fritz Varenholt and Sebastian Luning. Published in 2013, the book states that climate change isn't something that is man-made, but is a direct correlation with the energy of the sun's solar cycles. Essentially, the more active the sun is, the hotter it is on Earth. Varenholt and Luring predicted that the current solar cycle would be less active than previous ones, which they were right. But in effect, they said that that would lower the average of global temperature and prove their theory. The first issue with this is that Varenholt is a chemist and Luning is a geologist. Neither are synonyms for climatologist. The second issue, though, is that 1 year after the book was published, the sun's current solar cycle ended, and despite the cycle being less energetic than previous ones, the average temperature of the world still went up.
How about that?
It's a bad book. So to close out his platform, Charles Kraut does the most old man yells at cloud thing possible and complains about social media.
Yes!
He bemoans the fact that people have become less discerning of the facts and just believe anything they read online, which... not wrong. But the funny thing is, his platform page has at least 2 quote memes from founding fathers that are provably wrong.
Oh, this is beautiful.
One is a George Washington quote that Snopes discovered initially started floating around in the mid-2000s, I believe, but had never been said by George Washington at any point. The other is a Thomas Jefferson quote about the most dangerous thing in government being ignoring the Constitution. And the Monticello Foundation went about their daily work to disprove that Jefferson ever said it. Well, I mean, not so much disprove, but they're just like, we went through all of his writings, we went through all of his public speaking engagements. We did not find him ever saying this.
This is a nope.
So Charles closes out his screed on social media by saying, suicide and depression are only 2 of the outcomes that are increasingly associated with the use of social media. If you scroll down just a little more, there is a link to the campaign's Facebook page.
Yes. Yes.
It is art. It is beautiful art. So despite being a relative newcomer and a little more on the liberal side of things, Charles Kraut was able to get 25.76% of the vote on the first ballot, enough for a second place finish. But on the second ballot, he stayed pretty much stationary, ending the campaign with 28.07%, which leads us to our winner. And you remember how the Constitution Party's own platform states that their campaigns must have impeccable moral qualities?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm going to leave you to decide whether or not they succeeded in that during the next episode, when we talk about their official nominee, former coal CEO and convicted felon, John Blankenship of West by God, Virginia.
Oh my God! Yes!
There's too much about this man to summarize in this.
Yes!
I'm so mad they picked him, but it's probably going to ruin the party. Especially when I would say almost every other party is doing a very good job at picking very serious candidates. This is going to be a huge misstep for the Constitution Party.
Not that, yeah.
Oh no. So yeah, out of the few that we have seen so far, of the losers, who would you marry, fuck, kill? Actually, let's change this up because I don't want us to get sued. So let's change it to marry, fuck, banish.
Marry, fuck, banish. Yes, beautiful. I would banish Kraut because although he's technically the more liberal one, I cannot abide by conspiracy theories at all. I was just like, no. I think I would definitely think I would marry Sam because she seems like a provider. Yeah. And I guess fuck Cummings because there's very little known about him and we could just keep it anonymous, one and done.
I think that's fair. I think that makes sense.
Thank you. How about you, Dusty?
Oh man, I would banish Charles Kraut just because I don't think he really gets the gist of the party 100%. He feels a little too much of a politician for this party, and that's not really what they're about. And I think he would do better in the wilderness on his own. I think he deserves a better life than politics. I would fuck Grundman, not for my own personal pleasure, but because I think it would benefit him the most. And
Yes.
And yeah, like you, I would marry Sam. It seems like she has a good head on her shoulders, even if I disagree with a number of the things she says. She has a camper van.
And the way she writes it.
Exactly, yeah. She's got a camper van, so that's good for going on camping trips. If I ever need a job, she's always there. You know? Yeah, she seems really, genuinely good and stable. I think we've changed the world today.
I'm so proud of us.
Oh man. So yeah, this has been a real trip. I feel like this format worked out a little better than I expected. Might have gone a little long, but
no, this is great. Yes, agreed. I'm so excited for part 2.
Oh my god, I would hold on to whatever happiness you have for the week and just keep that ready for when we talk about this terrible human being.
No, listen, I am so dead inside constantly. To feel anything is a joy unto itself.
Amazing. Well, I hope you all feel the exact same way. That we've given you at least a little taste of what life used to be. And perhaps we'll have that little bit of happiness until the earth gets eaten by the sun. See y'all next time on Gadfly.
Yay!
Gadfly is a production of Added Serotonin. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at gadflypod.